What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. On today's episode, we have contributor, our friend Anthony Corrente on the show at Dynasty Drive, and we're bringing you a new type of show brought to us by one of our patrons. Actually, I got to give him a shout out, even though he's crazy, Todd Vincent. And that show is kind of a this or that. Who are we grabbing? In our first episode, we had to use quarterbacks, and we had to use these two guys: Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, and CJ Stroud, probably the prohibitive favorite Heisman Trophy candidate for this season, which is kind of crazy to think since Bryce is still in school. And based on their ADP and based on their production in college, who are we taking? So we're going to look at a lot of things: ADP, production. We're going to talk about it. We're going to scout them. We're going to watch some film. And then at the end, we are going to pick and say, hey, these are the guys who we would take based on that. So just to give a quick rundown, his ADP right now, so this you can see their ADP. CJ Stroud is QB1. Actually, he vaulted over Bryce Young probably around February, March. Really, after the season, people started talking about that. After that Rose Bowl game, and after Bryce kind of struggled against Georgia, we saw a switch. Bryce is going QB2. They're still going in the first round, but I will say Bryce's ADP has been dropping. I've seen him go at the 108, 109, 110. His average right now is the 107 in Devy drafts. So we have seen a kind of a dip here. Now, based on production, though, you'll see what they did last year. Ohio State last year, CJ went off 4,400 yards, 44 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And Bryce, hey, he was a Heisman winner for a reason. He had 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions here. What stands out to you, Anthony, either about the ADP, what we've seen with Bryce and Flip with Stroud, or just the production in general?
I think that it's interesting with what you brought up about Bryce Young's ADP, that it's kind of continued to drop a little bit. Like, it's a guy that this time last year was, locked in, going ahead of Stroud pretty regularly, it felt like. And now it's all happened post football, which is always kind of funny to me. Like, football ended and now the Bryce Young ADP continues to trickle down, trickle down. These guys are both very good. I mean, they're both going where they should be going in Devy drafts right now. I think they're both first round talents for sure. But it is interesting to me that while CJ Stroud has continued to climb above Bryce Young, Bryce has kind of started to slide towards the back half of the first round.
And I think some of that has to do with Bryce completely. I didn't think he had a bad game against Georgia in the national title game. After he just carved up Georgia in the SEC championship game, people forget that. People are they don't realize they forget that he threw over 350, 400 yards, and he looked really good against the Georgia defense that had like, I don't even know how many draft picks they had, 10 or 12, whatever it was on the defensive side. And then he looked okay, but remember, he lost Jamison Williams in that national title game. And those other weapons were not there. Like, and you look at what Julio Billingsley was their number one option. And after that Williams option, and that was bad. Ajay Hall, obviously, he had some bad drops in that game too. And, CJ looked great, and he looked great in that Rose Bowl game. But remember, they were playing against backup cornerbacks on Utah. And there was a reason why he was able to put those numbers up. So I do think that the dip has to do with that. And plus, I think in the Devy space too, because it's a very niche community. Like, there's not a lot of Devy players. I think the narrative can be switched very quickly based on who's talking about him. And CJ is getting talked up right now. And Bryce, they're trying to find holes where it's not as much. Remember, CJ went through that at the beginning of the season last year, and now we're seeing this slip. So I think you have to be careful with quarterback evaluations as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. And this happens every year, right? Like, we've reached the point where it feels like consensus almost that CJ Stroud will be the first overall pick in the NFL draft. And like, if history has taught us anything, it's that when it feels like that in the end of July, with a whole college football season yet to be played, a whole NFL season yet to be played, it's probably pretty likely that thing isn't going to happen. It happens every once in a while. Trevor Lawrence stayed locked in as the first overall pick, but more often than not, it doesn't even need to be like a somebody comes out of nowhere thing, right? Because we're not talking about Bryce Young coming out of nowhere, but it feels like we're putting a guy aside that just had like an incredible season for, like you said, one game, depleted weapons against a very, very good, like, I think sometimes we underplay how good that defense is or was with all those guys heading to the NFL.
I mean, it's arguably probably the best defense in college football that we've seen in the last at least 20 years, if not the best. Yeah. I mean, they were there. And I think, to your credit, too, about quarterbacks. Remember last year, it was Sam Howell was going to be number one. Spencer Rattler was going to be number 2. And then DJU was easily going to be the number 1 this year. And now It's not. And I think that is also, I think, why we've seen, I will say though, these two guys would have went 101 and 102 in Devy drafts last year. Now the quarterbacks aren't going 101 and 102 in Devy drafts, even in super flex leagues, because I think people are a little nervous about the quarterback position.
I agree. I think so many people feel burnt by DJU and Spencer Rattler specifically. Like DJU went 101 like 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh my God, nobody wants to be the one to pull the trigger on this guy in any draft right now. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that shifted where now everybody, and not that there's anything wrong with taking Bijan 101 or taking a position player aside from quarterback with the 101 or 102, but it is funny how much that value has shifted over the course of like one calendar year.
And it shifts so quick in Devy. You guys gotta know that. So
you gotta jump in and jump out quick.
You gotta get out quick. Now let's take a look at the tape. So what we want to do is we're gonna break down the tape for you guys. We're gonna look at CJ and Bryce's tape. I want to take a look at Bryce's tape first. And I know you like Bryce. I know that. So I'll let you kind of, what do you see from Bryce's tape? And I know, you haven't seen a ton of this tape anyway, but just when you watch him play, what stands out to you as for him as a quarterback?
The biggest thing, and this sounds like super like boilerplate, like easy analysis, but Bryce Young makes playing quarterback look so easy. Like the ball comes off his hand so effortlessly. I think he can throw like with accuracy to all three levels of the field on a regular basis, like no problems, no questions asked. There's really nothing to dislike when you watch the tape. I think the only thing that will give people pause with Bryce Young is like outlier size. Like he's a small guy. There's really no other way to put it. He's a tiny, I don't want to say a tiny guy playing quarterback, but by quarterback standards, what we look for going to the next level, he's small. And the league has told us kind of time and time again over the last few years that they don't care about size as much as they have in years past. But I do think Bryce is probably smaller than what he's listed at. And I think even if he played at what he's actually listed at, you're already betting on outlier size. But everything is so fluid. Everything looks so natural. Like it looks so easy to him. Like it's all been leading up to this moment. He could throw with accuracy. He's got a bigger arm than you'd expect for a guy that small. Like mechanics wise, actual talent wise, I don't think there's a lot of holes to poke in his game.
There's not. I think too, I mean, he's pretty good at evading pressure. Like you'll watch him, and I think that is one of his strengths, his functional athleticism in the pocket. But he knows, even though he's small, he doesn't take the hits that you normally would see from a quarterback that size.
Yeah, he's got some of that, like, not to like comp him to Russell Wilson, but like he never really takes the big hit outside of the pocket. Like he's just kind of slippery in that way where it's just like people are kind of glancing off him while he kind of maneuvers his body through it or around it.
And I hate comps so much. And I'm going to say something right now. He has like Patrick Mahomes, like level of playmaking ability. You'll watch him when he goes like people, as you go into line of scrimmage, he did it multiple times last year. I watch him all the time because Bryce is one of my favorite guys coming in. I was a Bryce QB1 over DJU even after last year, and I still got crap for it. And I was proven right. So ha all you guys. But when he's attacking the line of scrimmage and he just dumps it off or he quick tosses it out to his running backs, like he has this innate playmaking ability. And I think one underrated part about Bryce from last year is that offense wasn't very good. They were very one-dimensional. Running back, yes, Brian Robinson was there, but they still dealt with depth issues there, and that was all they had. And their wide receiver room was thin. I mean, when Mechie was there, yes, Jameson was there, yeah, but then after that, there wasn't really somebody they could hold the hand on. The tight end wasn't very good. I thought Cameron Latu was better anyway towards down the stretch, but then all those injuries kind of piled up. And if it wasn't for Bryce, they probably win 8-9 games. Like maybe, like he elevated that team to beat Georgia once, which is saying something else. So I think the biggest thing though is his size. 5'11" probably is what he's going to be, if hopefully 5'11", and probably 195, hopefully. So like, I think, but if you're going to bet on anybody outlier, I think it's Bryce based on talent.
Agreed. Like I don't want to make a habit of betting on outliers, but if I'm going to bet on one, he's going to be the one.
Yeah, I agree there. Now let's take a look at CJ. CJ came into the year last year against Minnesota, actually, if you're watching on the tape, and he had a pretty good game. I will say there was some throws, though, that kind of got away from him. And so that was where we started seeing the accuracy concerns. Like, hey, he rushes his throws. He's not accurate. McCord should start. You remember that? Remember when everyone was saying that Kyle McCord should start over CJ Stroud? And then, he kind of let that shoulder injury he had, it kind of recovered, and you saw him get more and more comfortable in the pocket. I think he steps up well in the pocket. I think he can hit at every level. I do think there's still accuracy issues. So when I'm looking at CJ, I think sometimes balls can get away from him, but I think that's more of a developmental issue. Like he's going to get better as more reps come, and you saw him get better as the season went. But I think that, besides the inconsistency on the accuracy stuff, he got better every game. And I think that's what people are probably buying on right now is that ceiling, is that he continued to improve. So we're going to see that. And I thought his ability to kind of maneuver, get up into the pocket like you're seeing on film, I thought he did all that great. I mean, he has the arm strength. He has the look, right? He's bigger than Bryce, 6'3", 215, I think is what he's listed at, somewhere around there. So you like to see that from him. And 573 passing yards against Utah helps.
Yeah, he's definitely, like you said, got the build that you like. He's got the frame and the room to kind of continue to grow into that frame that you look for. The accuracy for me is the biggest thing too. I don't think it's bad, but I think there's times it's like the pro and con of this. The pro is that I agree he ascended all year, like down the stretch, continued to get better. Every game he got better. But I still saw times where it felt like I was wanting him to kind of, he's got all the arm talent in the world.
Yeah.
Like how to rein it in and like switch it up. Like doesn't always have to be fastball, kind of get more comfortable with throwing, especially even in like the short and intermediate areas of the field. Like I think if he can learn to comfortably, like just kind of trust himself to take the layup sometimes, like he'll be so much better off for it.
Yeah.
He's a great talent though, for sure. I mean, awesome skill set, a great arm. It will be fun to watch this year because if he continues like the trajectory we saw at the end of last year, where it's like he still continues that ascension where every game he looks a little bit better, it will probably be pretty tough to knock him out of, being the favorite for both, the Heisman and for the first overall draft pick. But there's a lot to like about his game for sure.
I thought the most telling game for him, and I watch this game all the time now if I'm in a bad mood, was the Ohio State-Michigan game because I was a Michigan fan. I got to rub that into my co-host, Jeffrey Bell. He had 394 yards and 2 touchdowns that game, and he looked good, but he didn't take that game over. And there was times that like when you talk about it, there were hesitancy on his throws. There were guys he missed. He got pressured a little bit. It was kind of that environment. It was at Michigan. They kind of got on him a little bit, and you did see that inconsistency kind of flare up. Whereas we've seen Bryce. Yeah, he lost in the national title game after he lost basically every weapon that he had. He beat Georgia's ass in that SEC championship game, and he elevated in the biggest games. I feel like Bryce is a big game guy. He's not going to let that moment take away from him. I know analytics guys aren't going to like that, but I don't care. I'm not an analytics guy, but he's that big game guy. He steps up when it matters most. He led that team, and to be quite honest with you, Bryce did much more with less at Alabama than what Stroud had at Ohio State. Stroud had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith-Njigba, all these guys, and he's going to have better. I would argue Ohio State has better weapons this year with TreVeyon Henderson as well than Alabama. I know Gibbs is there. I know Burton and all those guys, but I still think Ohio State has the better weapons. So
Agreed.
Bryce has done more with less, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And as soon as the analytics guy come out with a stat for the clutch gene, let us know.
Well, someone tried, and he got canceled on Twitter. But all right, let's wrap this up. Let's pick. So if we had to pick, if we had to pick right now, who do we think is a better value? They're really close right now. You're in a startup. Remember, this is Devy, not C2C, so we're not talking about college production. Just straight Devy. Who are you taking?
The value is close enough for me. I'll take the better value because I still have Bryce Young as my QB1. So I'll take the couple pick discount at taking Bryce Young a few spots later than CJ Stroud. I don't think you can go wrong with either. But Bryce Young's my guy. I mean, he looks too ready. I know we're betting against like everything with size, but everything else is so good with Bryce Young that I'm willing to hang my hat on that.
And you guys know I can't go with the Ohio State quarterback. I'm just kidding. I got to go with Bryce because Bryce has been my guy for 2 years, and it's not really recency bias. It's something that I think that he's my QB1 as well. So I'm going to go by my board. If I can get him at a 107, like Anthony said, I will take Bryce. And, to be honest, though, if it is Devy, I might not even take a quarterback. I might be going after position players anyway, as I've kind of mentioned over videos and all the stuff I've talked about. But if I had to pick between these guys, I understand CJ's probably, with the size and everything there. There's just something about Bryce that stands out to me as a quarterback prospect that I'm willing to take the risk on with, hey, this is my guy, and I think he can elevate his teams. And if he's got to be Russell Wilson light, then I'll take Russell Wilson light with the playmaking ability. Like, that's where I fall on these guys.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. Well, hey, that's our first this or that. So we're going to be doing a few more of these throughout the next couple of weeks. If you like them, or if you don't agree with us, put them in the comments. Fight us. We're ready to come after you guys. I know. Ohio State fans are going to yell at me on this one because I commented that your quarterback had it easier than Bryce. But tell me about it. Go after it. If you haven't already, please, if you subscribe to the channel, we'd appreciate it. But also check out our Patreon. We have I don't even know anymore. It's almost 400-page manifesto. We're going to be adding stuff every month, and it's only $3 a month. We're closing in on 100 patrons. We would love to hit that before the season started. We're going to have a betting update here pretty soon. So favorite bets, all of that, prize picks, stuff like that. So we would really appreciate you guys checking that out. And until next time, we'll see you all later.